Good. So now we move into autumn. The days getting shorter. And so it's time to think of questions and answers. And the first is a good one to chew on. It says, can the Dzogchen view be reconciled with a scientific view of the world? Reconciled is maybe not really. They are oppositional. Generally speaking, science begins with a materialistic view that life begins from chemical interaction, and through evolution, gradually the species evolve, and then human beings. And human beings all have culture and language. And in the culture of Tibet, there was a subgroup called interested in Dzogchen. So in that sense, it's like a small leaf on a small twig from a branch of the great tree of evolution. And it's a reasonable, ethical, non-violent way to pass your time until you die. But from the view of Dzogchen is that the mind is not a thing, that the ground or basis of our presence is the luminous quality of the infinite expanse that we manifest into and from. Science starts from objective inquiry with experiments which should be replicated. But from a Buddhist point of view, everything is impermanent and specific to the moment, and so it cannot be replicated. So this is a very different approach. The second part of the question is, do they need to be reconcilable? I think not at all. Science is a language for functioning in the world of duality. And Dzogchen is a method for awakening to the illusory nature of duality. So they run like parallel train tracks. So then the third part of the question is, if they can't be reconciled, how to resolve the tension between Western cultural beliefs and Dharma views? Generally, we manage this by cognitive dissonance. That is to say, we can hold in mind, in the space of the mind, ideas which are fundamentally contradictory, but yet we still support them. So you might support a football team and believe it's the best, but you know that it doesn't win many games. The idea that it's the best is linked with emotion. The knowledge that it's not the best is just a kind of abstract concept. I read in the books, I'm going to die, but I don't quite believe it. And so we're used to having these kind of irreconcilable different views inside ourselves. As long as the ideas are kind of speculative concepts, it doesn't matter too much. But if something is a path, a spiritual path, a way of living, a profound guide to how we should proceed, then maybe it's different. Because then we have to gather our energy together and allow it to flow in one direction, because if we're dispersed all over the place, we won't make much progress. So for the purposes of practice, you have to choose. Personally, I think Dharma teachings go much, much deeper than modern materialist thought. The second question for the evening is, are mind and matter truly different? So they exist as a kind of binary opposition in the way we think about things. If it's the mind, it's not matter. If it's matter, it's not mind. But now with modern research, science pushes towards the conclusion that the mind is matter. Now, from the Dharma, from the Dharma point of view, there is no matter. Everything that you are in contact with is revealed to you as experience. If you pick up an orange, you feel the skin, it has different sensations are revealed to you. And then you pick up a rubber ball and it feels different. on the basis of processing the kind of sensory experience you have and applying to it concepts you have learned, you are able to say an orange is not a rubber ball. But the experience of the two objects was mental. You don't actually experience the orange as orange. As you hold the orange in your hand and maybe some smell comes out from the skin, you're aware of the smell, of the color, of the weight. Color and weight may appear to be objective facts outside in the world, but what we experience is a color. That is to say, the color is revealed through a co-emergence of relatedness. There is the object, the sense organ, and the sense consciousness. And then we have on top of that mental consciousness, which is providing additional information to tell us something about the oranges. So in fact, if we attend purely to our own, to what is arising for us, we see this is a flow of experience. I cannot find the orange per se in itself. What I experience is the orange for me. So we have a co-emergence of what we call the object, orange, and myself as the experiencer. So from the Dharma point of view, materialism or the sense of matter and things is simply a way of thinking about experience. And you can change your notion of materials. So for example, some people like to go rock climbing. They look at this cliff face and they feel excitement. Someone else looks and immediately has a feeling of fear, of, oh, I hate to do that. Are they looking at the same surface of rock? Can we separate the perception from the emotion which arises so very quickly? So from the point of view of Dharma, everything we encounter is interpreted. It's not that the world is there and we arrive afterwards. The world is a vast potential which reveals specific patterns according to our participation. So in that sense, there is no matter. Or if there is, we have no contact with it. As soon as we start to think about it, we bring our sense of it into our mental frame. So in traditional language, the dharma dhatu, or the space or the openness within which things or phenomena appear, this is the hospitality of the mind itself. The mind is not a thing inside myself. The functioning of my consciousness through the sense organs and memories and plans and so on is movement within the space of the mind or the field of awareness. These mental experiences, memories, feelings, thoughts come and go very quickly. They are like the light of little fireflies going around in the garden in the summertime. And this infinite garden is the Dharma Dhatu. It's the space of all these transient movements of appearing, disappearing, appearing, disappearing. So when you start to become aware of impermanence and you sit to do some meditation, you're aware of the ceaseless flow of appearing and disappearing. The same is occurring when you walk down the street. The same is occurring when you go into your kitchen to make a cup of coffee. You go to get the water from the tap. You've done this so many times before. You know this is the tap for getting the water. What you're approaching is something you are interpreting. This is the tap. The tap doesn't say anything. You call the tap the tap. The tap doesn't call itself the tap. It just is. And what is it? It's a tap. We approach everything through our mental interpretation, through our concepts, which are linked with feelings and associations. So from the Buddhist point of view, this thing we call stupidity or mental dullness or assumption, is the dullness or the blindness of not being in a permanent state of wonder at the strangeness of the world. You might go to a gallery, an art gallery, or into a big park to look at sculpture. So this is famous sculpture. So you look at it and you walk around it from different points of view. Now, if you were to bring this same attitude into the kitchen to look at the tap, when you look at it from one angle, one shape arises. When you look from another angle, there is another shape. The actuality of what is there is incomprehensible. You can't, it's too many possibilities displaying themselves in this. Is it an object, this site of manifestation? But we don't need to trouble ourselves because it's just the tap. This kind of falling asleep in our own life is quite reassuring and comforting. There's a kind of comfort in knowing what things are. But it's the comfort of wrapping yourself in a veil. When we start to look and see what is there, we see the gap between what is revealed to us and our interpretive conceptualization. So then we start to notice the flow of experience through all the senses never stops. Now I get a headache. This is too much. How will I make sense of it? So this is the challenge for our dualistic concept, our consciousness that says, I have to know what things are. But if we start to relax and stop straining at imposing meaning on the situation, we find that the whole field of experience is arising together with us on the inside of it. This is not something happening to me, but it's a co-emergence. As I participate, so I get this specific revelation of the potential. And with this particular revelation, I'm also moving out of my potential. Some new sensation arises or feeling or memory. And so constellation after constellation is moving. And if we stay with this, we start to see, I am not a thing. And the world is not made of things. This field of potential is self-showing. It has a clarity. It's ceaselessly displaying. As I am, so the world reveals itself. So if I am present and sensitive, many, many kinds of revelation or experience arise. What will I do with it? There's nothing to do with it. When you swim in the sea, if there are some waves moving, you move with the waves. The sea is moving, you are moving. What does it mean? Just movement. But what's it for? It's pleasure. But surely, I know, it's for exercise. I'm keeping my body healthy. Every day I'm going to swim and I will feel better. So there I have a narrative of self-management. I have an intention towards the water, which blinds me to the water. But if I'm swimming with the water, then how I move is dependent on the water, and I also influence the water. So when we look at this, the teaching on the three aspects of the Buddha, the three kayas, the openness of the Buddha's mind, the Dharmakaya, is just being there in the sea, in the openness of everything occurring at once. So the Dharmakaya is the awareness that reveals the sea and the swimmer together. As soon as you think, I am swimming, I'm doing quite well, I enjoy swimming, you get a retraction into this monad, this isolated autonomous person, and that is not the Dharmakaya. That is the individual ego self. But if we relax and allow the arising of the experience, then this movement is the Sambhogakaya, the form or the modality of enjoyment. We enjoy. What's it for? It's not for anything. How do we feel when we enjoy? We feel connected, a sense of immediacy, of participation. We're freed from the need to enter into judgment and make our commentary about what is going on. We simply enjoy. And within that, we have the sense of a specific movement. This movement, as your body turns, depending on how you're swimming, depending on whether there is wind, whether the water is cold, the specificity of the movement is changing moment by moment. This is like the Nirmanakaya, the illusory form of the Buddha's manifestation or the apparition. Illusion and apparition here don't mean that it's nothing at all. If you're swimming, excuse me, if you're swimming, the energy of your body is in, you're pushing on the water or you're slapping with it, but you're always moving. That's what we call swimming. You don't stop, otherwise you start to sink. So if you were, someone was to take many, many photographs of you, there's nothing stable because you are moving with the water. You can't grasp it and say, oh, this is James swimming and this is what he does, because next moment I'm doing something different. And then another and another as a big wave comes. So and my body is moving. So the Nirmanakaya is indicating the unique specificity of each moment of participation in the field of enjoyment. And when you participate in that way, a term like matter has no meaning. I am swimming in the sea. That grammatical structure, which allows a consolidated account of what is happening, it seems to be referring to certain clear entities. There is me, I am the one who is swimming. There is the sea, it is there. That's where I go to swim. I go into the water, I come out of the water. So we're used to that kind of conceptualization. My body is matter, and I have to organize it in relation to the matter, the material surfaces that I encounter, whether it's the sea or the beach or getting into a motor car. Well, here we can see the difference between samsara and nirvana. In samsara, it's we have the experience of being a sentient being, moving and going somewhere in search of something. Most of the time we're acting onto the environment, trying to make some particular outcome occur. But when you relax into the openness of awareness, a whole different quality of experience unfolds for you. And then you see, oh, the whole of life occurs within non-duality. Connectivity is primary. This is the great completion, Dzogchen Chenpo. Everything is always connected. And separation, isolation, individualization, these are aspects of delusion. So in that point of view, material is matter is a misperception, a misinterpretation. Now we have finished 2 questions. When I began, I was determined I would have no more than 5 minutes on each question, but I'm not doing very well. Time is running away. So, 3rd question, wisdom indicates that there are no really existing beings. Compassion indicates that we should respond to the suffering of beings and try to help them. How to reconcile this and not be an unethical bystander? So from the point of view of wisdom, we see that everything is empty. From the point of view of clarity, we see that so many things occur. And as I was just describing, we are part of the field of clarity. It's not that I can choose to step in or not. I am on the inside, but I can deny this to myself, usually in order to maintain my sense of self. Because if I am separate from the world and I have to take care of myself, then it's very important that I determine how I am. So this is the burden of isolation. It's all up to me. What shall I do? Sometimes these questions make us feel very lonely. I'm just me. That can feel good. But because I'm just me and not you, I can't exactly copy how you live. I have to work it out for myself. And the more I think about myself, the more particular, the more distinct I become. And this makes the step of connecting with other people quite difficult, because I am a construct. This is the basic Buddhist idea of the 5 skandhas, or the 5 ingredients. You have the form and the feeling tone, perception, and then association or compounding, and then finally consciousness. And these elements have to operate together, and they have to be managed in how they operate together. So a lot of my energy is then required for self-maintenance, not just the maintenance of this body that I call my body, but also the maintenance of the patterns of concepts that I use to establish my specific individual identity. Now, this is a fragile edifice. And if I'm determined to hold it in place, then I want to say to people, hey, take care if you come near me. Don't flood me with your emotions. Don't disturb me. Now I'm safe, but lonely. Now I want to connect with you, but on my terms. This leads to all the problems that occur in families and couples and so on. So from this point of view, compassion is quite difficult. For the meditators, the issue is not enough emptiness. If I want to help you, then who is this I? What does I as a concept refer to? Does it refer to my history, to the pattern of my daily life? Or does it refer to the immediacy of my presence, being aware, being cognizant of these things occurring? So if I start from the immediacy of just being here, there is a freshness in this, which allows me to drop a lot of the factors out of which I construct the shape of myself. So I'm unburdened, which allows me to be more free in how to relate. So if my relating is about connectivity, then I will find myself becoming as is possible in this movement of connectivity. And this is the path of the bodhisattva. They are for the other. This doesn't mean a kind of ascetic sacrifice. It's more of the warmth of a plasticity of co-relatedness. We can't know in advance how it will be. And in that process, I will find myself revealed to myself. Through being for the other, there is more self-revelation, or revelation of the potential that I start to manifest. So in that moment, the center of my gravity is outside myself. But if I get frightened of that and bring it back into me, then I'm thinking, am I enjoying this? What's in it for me? So once we start calculating in this way, the barrier between self and other starts to thicken. We become transactional. We're looking at the toing and the froing rather than simply participatory. So to participate really means that I start as a part. I'm already a part of the whole. I'm not taking myself like a piece of a jigsaw puzzle into a game which is already going on. I'm on the inside. So this is the meaning of wisdom, is always to be on the inside, to be in the infinite space of emptiness. And because of this, we find ourselves responding to the situation of others. We can respond to others with our mind. We can hold them in mind. We can pray for people. We can send them rays of light. We can respond with our speech. We can speak sweetly to people. We can telephone the hospital to say there is a drunk beggar, they need help, and they send an ambulance. And we can respond with our body, feeding other people, being tender with them, and so on. How our energy flows into this field of participation will be determined by many factors and not just our own sense of self. So if we do that, we're not going to end up as an unethical bystander. Because if your mind, if your heart is turned towards the benefit of the other and you wish them well, then from the dharma point of view, this is very, very important. We live in cultures which are quite materialistic. And so we believe, oh, we have to care for the poor. We have to send food to Ethiopia and so on. What is the cause of the trouble in Ethiopia? War. Because the Eritreans don't like the Ethiopians don't like the Eritreans. It is called concepts. People are not intrinsically Ethiopian or Scottish. These are concepts applied from the outside, which we then internalize. So when we say, may all sentient beings be happy, and when we walk about and we see sentient beings, and we might be aware of some cultural judgment arising in us, but we relax a bit and we say, well, may they be happy. So from your family, you might say, we shouldn't have illegal immigrants. These are illegal immigrants. Now we see, this is a concept. The concept is not intrinsic to the person. They are there, you see their eyes, you see some light is in their eyes, they are breathing in and out. This is their potential. So when we keep the idea, may all beings be happy, we are making some great infinite inclusion, which helps to soften and dissolve the bigoted definitions of inclusion and exclusion. So from that point of view, saying prayers for people is very powerful. We may not be able to feed everyone we meet, but we can certainly dedicate all our merit to all beings. Because from our Dharma point of view, the basic cause of all the suffering in samsara is to take subject and object as truly separate and oppositional. And as we know, as soon as we say, I am not the same as you, then we move towards other binary oppositions, high and low, good and bad. I am high, you are low. I am good, you are bad. Now I know what you are. You're some kind of other, some kind of dirty, not me person who is low and not good. And we see what happens in politics, in racial conflicts, in civil wars, and so on. First, there is the concept of difference, then there is reification. And then the antagonism and the conflict arises and people die. So to have a warm, open, inclusive attitude is very different from being a critical bystander. So the next question is, how does the term unborn mean? What does the term unborn mean when applied to phenomena? And the consequent fact that for the great bodhisattvas, thoughts do not arise. Well, generally, born means separation. The baby has to come out of the mother's body. Until that occurs, it can't participate in the world. And you could think developmentally, the progress from a baby to an infant to a child is ever new kinds of birth. You become born as somebody who can speak, as somebody who can feed themselves, someone who can stand up and not fall over, someone who can catch a ball when it's thrown to them. as if you like, as the flower of their life opens into a full blossoming, at each stage they are born into new displays of potential. So you can think about the history of the child. And that's the meaning of born, that there is someone there, someone who is seen as having their own life, their own existence. Now, if something is unborn, it has not come into existence. So usually we think once you're born, you keep going till you die. These are the two markers, birth and death. But what I was suggesting was that each day the baby is being born. For example, if you have a 4-year-old child and they say, "Hey, Dad, give me a carry me on your back." They say, "Hey, do you know that you're not a baby anymore and you weigh quite a lot? I'll carry you to the next tree, but no further. You're not a baby anymore. Baby is gone. Maybe baby has died. Baby was born, baby died. Now infant. Then the niño dies and the adolescent comes. So many, many births, many, many deaths. So if you take this and you apply it very, very precisely, then you become aware that when you breathe in and when you breathe out, you experience mental processes in a different way. So when you breathe in and you start to think about something, you breathe out and it's more spacious. So breath by breath, I'm born in this modality and that modality. They are not the same. I have access to different patternings, different formations, different births. And because this sequence is moving so quickly, has any of them actually been born? There is this, but can I catch it? Nowadays, with mobile phones, people take endless photographs and little films of children. Let me show you my children. That's an image. You can put the image in the camera and you won't be arrested. But if you try to put the child in the camera, then you have to chop them up and boil them and make them into a paste. Then you go to prison. Children are uncatchable. Everything you say about them is not accurate. School teachers have to write reports on their pupils. This is quite difficult. You don't have so much space. What you write can have quite some importance. Are you writing about the actual child or your own mental representation? So the more we become aware of the difference between the conceptualized person and the actual immediately revealing person, the more we see that mostly we are in a realm of fiction. We are like novelists. We are telling stories about the world, stories about ourselves. The story creates a kind of pattern which is comprehensible. A character has to ring true. But we are much more complex. And this complexity is not a problem when it is lived. It is the quality of being unborn. If something is born, it goes here, existent. We put a name on the baby and say, this is Maria. We hold up the baby and say, look, here is Maria. And other people say, hello, Maria. This baby is not Maria. Maria is a name floating in conceptual space, hovering over the child. Maria is the symbol of birth. But has this person been born? Is there one baby? When we look, maybe not. So the conceptual apprehension creates the entity which is comprehended. So I can still remember my dad saying to me, James, why do you do that? Usually I had no idea. Who is the James that's being asked? It is as if I should be able to review my behavior and my intentions and give some kind of computer printout, because children have not yet been forced to learn how to manage themselves. We give small children the freedom not to be managed. But as you get bigger, you have to self-manage. You have to maintain the cultural expectation that you are predictable, that you are an entity, that you exist in a form which can be known. This is a very heavy burden to carry. We participate, we flow with the situation. The reason we can participate is because we are not apart. But the name makes me apart. When someone calls my name, I look. Other people, they don't look because it's my name. So it's very important to investigate for ourselves how you are born according to the tone of voice of the person who calls your name. So with my father's voice, I could be born as guilty James, or happy James, or James who has to do something. So according to how the name was called, out of the, what we say, the portfolio, the palette of potential, a particular form arises. None of these is the real me or the true me, because there is no real me or true me. So in that way, we start to see, oh, I am unborn and yet always birthing. So in the Dzogchen text, it talks of self-arising, self-liberating. Just as, again, when you look at the sea, the wave is arising and then it's descending. It doesn't arrive anywhere. In the same way with our moods and how we talk with people, we're expanding, contracting, we're pulsatory. So we can investigate this for ourselves. See how you are constellated with the various people you interact with. With some people, it's very easy to say intimate things about yourself. And with others, it's just not. That particular patterning of yourself cannot, if you like, be born. It cannot manifest with this particular person. So this is dependent origination. As you are for me in this moment, so I am with you in this moment. In that way, I experience myself as a flow of energy coming into formation, formation, formation. And this applies to all phenomena, whether it's the road where you live, or cats or dogs or whatever. How you experience this particular creature or person or object is mood influenced. So in Buddhism, the notion of unborn is always indicating, be aware of the danger of objectification. Here is a thing, I can fill it with my own ideas about it. The thing is born for me through my thoughts. The house is not self-existing, the tree is not self-existing. It is born with me or emergent with me. So this is, everything is unborn. This is the middle way between a kind of nihilistic oblivion that there's nothing at all, and the idea that there are permanent, reliable phenomena. Maria may be willing to say, yes, I am Maria. When I'm willing to put the name tag onto myself at work that says Maria. Maria refers to me, but how Maria is, Maria doesn't know. Maria is revealed to Maria. Maria doesn't have Maria-ness. So the name Maria is referring to a process which is continuing, continuous, but ungraspable. So when we see this, it brings us to the second part of the question, was the consequent fact that for the great bodhisattvas, thoughts do not arise. So if I say, oh, Maria looks very sad. I saw her face 2 hours ago. We didn't talk, but I saw her face. I interpret she's sad. Maria is sad. Maybe when I saw Maria, some transient thought pattern was running through her. And on the basis of that, I come to this conclusion: Maria is sad. Now I share this with you. What shall we do about it? Now we're talking about Maria as if we had definite access to the truth of who she is. Bodhisattvas don't waste their time doing this because they recognize, well, this is not Maria. This is Maria for me, my Maria. I need to be with Maria. I need to have a co-emergence to connect with Maria. Thinking about Maria is not Maria. So when we say, may all sentient beings be happy, we're not defining sentient beings. It's just an open flow of goodwill. But generally speaking, we use concepts to secure the territory, to provide definition and prediction. So now I, excuse me, I have created this mental furniture, this structures inside me on the basis of which I'm going towards Maria. There is an actual Maria and a conceptual Maria. And if perhaps Maria is sad, Maria's mind is full of sad thoughts for a while, intensified by certain factors, diminished by other factors. She knows she is sad at this moment. And because it's intense, she's not thinking for this moment. She's just feeling, I feel sad. She is pervaded by sadness. Just as recently, the sky over London has been pervaded by gray clouds full of rain. And then the sky clears. And then Maria's happy. So thoughts are the midwife. They are bringing the illusory, graspable, definable objects into existence. But the actuality of our life, that is to say, what is arising immediately into the space of the mind, is dynamic, relational, without its own essence. So now we have this tension between the graspable, the seemingly born, and the unborn, the ungraspable. So the great bodhisattvas, they relax in the unborn. This is called awareness or rigpa. It's not a thing. It reveals a clarity, that is to say, the flowing display of this and that and that and that. Nothing has been revealed because it's unborn. And yet this revelation never stops. So this is where the bodhisattvas are situated. And it's about enjoyment. They are enjoying the flow of experience. They're not relying on it, because as some of us have looked many times, the mind itself is open and empty. It's not a thing. If something is open and empty, it doesn't need anything else. It doesn't need anything added or anything taken away. It's just open. So the bodhisattva relaxes in the dharmakaya, open mind. Experiences arise. Where do they arise? The mind is infinite. Nothing is outside it because it's infinite. There is no limit. The mind is empty. Can you get something from nothing? What you get is the appearance of something, like a rainbow in the sky, like a mirage. We can't say that nothing has occurred because our experience is continuous, but you can't grasp it. Ceaseless emergence of nothing something. This is what the Heart Sutra says. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. The emptiness and the form are not two things. It's nothing something. Because it's nothing, it's not really there. But because it's something, there is something there, which is the illusion of this appearance, this illusory appearance. So from that point of view, in the mind of the bodhisattva, many things are arising, thoughts, feelings, sensations. It's not that they don't arise at all. Otherwise, the mind's just a big hole. But the thought arises as empty thought, unborn thought. So when we think of the great mother, Prajnaparamita, the mother of all the Buddhas, all Buddhas are born into the womb of the great mother. They don't come out of that womb. They are born in emptiness, empty of individual essence, and yet ceaselessly radiant with appearance. Our delusion is that we project the false notion of real individual substances out into phenomena and into ourselves. So that is our time for this evening. We have gone to many places, but not through many questions. We have another question and answer in the diary. You'll find it on the website. And we also have another weekend soon. And I'm discussing with the translators for some future dates for our diaries when we can all be here. So, time to say goodbye. Thank you to our translators.
Bye-bye.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, James.
Obrigado.
Gracias.
Adiós.
Thank you. Thank
Gracias a
you.
todos.
Very much.
Hey, bravo.
Adiós.
Bye-bye,
Thank you very
James.
much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.